Hello everyone, we are Group 1 Gallus, and today we have an interesting topic about the Chinese imbalanced education. And first of all, let me to do some introduction. Well, I'm MENGMENG. I'm a first year student in UKM, major in media communication. And next, let me talk about today's topic. And currently, Chinese education has seen a situation that's a serious shortage of teachers in rural areas, while people keeping signing up to be a subtitle teacher. And I once saw a news story about is that in Chinese Yunnan province, who had been having class for about 18 years without being transferred, every day walking about 8 kilometers to school, eating and living with students, and still insist on teaching, which is a great sprint to be a teacher. But this also a bad situation of Chinese teacher. More importantly, it's a reflection of Chinese imbalanced education. So the reason for that maybe includes the high acceleration levels in city. Also, in less developed area, especially in rural areas, teachers often has to work very hard and have several jobs, which is stressful because they have a difficult living environment. So they may feel a psychological gap. And next, Tian Yixuan, do you have any idea about this topic?
In my opinion, regional and policy factors are inequality. And in places that they are well developed, they have good thing in education. They have fancy schools, lots of books, and smart teachers. And this means that students in those places can get a good education and have more chances to go to the college. And so the school in developed areas have been around for a long time and are really good. They have teachers who know a lot and nice buildings for learning. And they also have cool things like computers and labs where students can do experiments. They even have special websites and online tools that students can use to learn more. And so if you live in developed area, you have a better chance to getting a good education. So the school are nice, the teachers and smart, and there are lots of resources to help you to learn. But it's also important to make sure that everyone, no matter where they live, have the same opportunities. We should try to make sure that school in all areas have good teachers, books, and technology. That way, all students can have a chance to learn and succeed.
Well, thank you, Tian Yixuan. But I think your idea is creative and can give me more details, maybe?
Sure. The developed cities and coastal area usually have better funded schools, more experienced teachers, and easier access to the educational resources. More lenient policies in developed regions. And developed area already have good educational resources, and developed area tend to have smaller population than the rural area, so that the students with good education in developed area are more likely to be admitted to university. And I found some data support. In ordinary senior high school, the student-teacher ratios of urban, township, and rural school were 3.0, 13.0, and 14.3, and 13.7 respectively. In junior high school, the student-teacher ratio of urban, township, and rural schools were 12.8, 12.6, and 11.0 respectively. Difference between the urban and rural area are not obvious, but in primary school, the student-teacher ratios of urban, township, and rural schools are 18.8, 18.1, and 14.6 respectively. And the student-teacher ratio of urban schools is significantly higher than the rural schools.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Tian Yixuan. I think your idea is very great. And I also agree with you that small population will get better education. That's because, for example, I born in Anhui province in China, which is not a rich place. And my grandmother and parents tell me that when they go to school, they have to walk about several kilometers and also go past the mountains. So it's will be difficult for them to get some higher education because they even don't have much money to get a book. But if you say in the Guangdong province at that time, they were also a little rich. They will have their own car. They can take the car to go to school. They also have enough money to pay for the books. So I think your idea is very great for me. So next, Xintong, do you have any idea about this?
Hi, I'm XINTONG. I'm a freshman from Media Communication major in UKM. In my opinion, the causes of educational inequality originate primarily in schools, which play a central role in student development and are a major factor in family spending on education. The high cost of education without a corresponding return can lead to temporary poverty for families, especially low and middle income families. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Xintong. I also agree with you because I think it's very important. So can you give me more details?
Okay, let me tell you my opinion in detail. As an important part of the education system, schools are central to the growth of students and the perception that they are also a major factor in family spending on education. Therefore, schools are also a precondition and a direct cause of poverty through education. As mentioned in the article, when the high cost of education doesn't balance out the low return on education, education inevitably leads to temporary poverty. For families, especially low and middle income families, when I was in high school, the cost of tutoring one-on-one was already 700 yuan for 2 hours, and the child was under a huge psychological burden that could result in negative outcomes. Since 2000, the cost of running a university and training students has risen sharply as prices have risen sharply. The resulting tuition fees and living costs are increasing. The article also mentions that the non-compulsory stages of education include preschool and high school levels. School choices fees for high school, other fees for children for migrant workers, tuition fees, and so on. However, high education expense on a limited family income inevitably lead many families into poverty. So education for poverty has significant negative impact on both school families and society. That's all.
I agree with you that the government should increase financial investment. I think many schools today are very expensive and unaffordable for the average family. After the government increases investment, schools can be subsidized to a certain extent, and tuition fees may be reduced, giving families more choices. My idea is that family problems lead to uneven education. The emergence of social classes due to uneven economic development, which in turn leads to a gap in education consumption. Similarly, education development in different regions is uneven, resulting in equality of educational resources in Eastern and Western China. The gap in family concept is also one of the important reasons for the imbalance in education. In many poor mountainous areas, there is still a some preferences mentality, believing that girls do not need to read a lot of books, and many girls go out to work after junior high school and then marry early. In contrast, in large cities such as Beijing, education planning begins when children are only 2 or 3 years old. That is my opinion.
I'm interested in your opinion. Can you talk more about this?
There is now increasing evidence attesting to the importance of family non-monetary characteristics to children's education, such as parents' child-rearing practices and expectations. Nevertheless, research based on US data has found these non-monetary characteristics to closely correlate with family income in crucial or non-crucial ways. For example, wealthier parents in general hold higher educational expectations for their children and are more motivated to engage in practices cultivating their children's academic abilities. While the debate remains over whether the observed association between income and children's educational outcome is crucial or spurious. Most studies to date have found significant income effect even after controlling for non-mandatory characteristics such as parents' education and child rearing practices. Unfortunately, most of the previous studies examining the social determinants of children's educational achievement are based on experiences in Western countries, and few endeavors have been made to systematically investigate this question in other social contexts such as China. Revisiting this classic question in China is important because it will improve our knowledge about whether and how the social significant process differs across social contexts. It is plausible that previous findings from the West may not hold true for China, which is fundamentally different both socially and culturally. To begin with, unlike the USA and other Western countries, the government in China exerts a predominant influence on regional development and individual social outcomes, which would cause huge regional and rural or urban differences. A very realistic example is that children born in Beijing and children born in small towns in like Ningxia province. Children in Beijing are planned for the future from birth, learn various musical instruments since childhood, learn everything that will help them enter school in the future. Programming, Olympic, participate in all the competitions they can participate in. In this, it is suggested that in Beijing, even elementary school needs to go through interviews. Children in small towns like in Ningxia province, the world is a small town for them since birth. Maybe there is no kindergarten, and more enlightened families will send their children to the only school in town when they reach the school age and study step by step. Compared to the school in Beijing, the teacher's ability is much worse, and the child can only receive the knowledge in the textbook in these places. And in these places, there are many families with pandemic ideas, and parents believe that children, especially girls, are useless to study, so that many girls are promised by their parents at the age of 16 or 17 to someone much older than themselves, even though this is not what they want. Ultimately, these situations are due to uneven economic development. The economic base determines the superstructure, and in economically developed areas, the wealth at the disposal of families in education is very considerable, and parents are very aware of the impact of education on their children. So they pay more attention to their children's education. In contrast, in economically backward areas, due to poverty, parents may more attention to what kind of economic value their children can bring to the family and how their children can go to work, which is a problem they pay more attention to. So to address educational inequalities caused by family reasons, the first thing to address should be to reduce regional economic imbalances. So that's all. And I want to ask my group member, Will, do you have any ideas of this question?
Yes, just now our team members raised many issues like area, parents, family, or government. What I want to talk about is social class difference caused by unbalanced regional development. In the upper social class, many people have wealth and power. The investment is in children's education and learning is regarded as a consumption demand. They think it is easy to spend like 1 million yuan to send their children to study in the United States. Some families even send their children to American schools from an early age. However, how many families can earn 1 million RMB per year? In the article, the author mentioned that many data collected on related families still exists in many families still do not belong to the upper social class. For them, the cost of children's education account for the almost all departmental income, even though their annual income cannot reach 1 million RMB. They prefer everything they have, even selling their house in order to let their children to go study in the United States. This notion is worrying. It may also be that they do this so that their children can find a better job when they come back, and change their family situation, or just let others know that my child is studying in the United States. This is actually the problem of poverty caused by education raised by the author. Parents are giving up all their last resources and investing their children further abroad, future abroad. Said HAOCHEN. He is an education policy researcher at Beijing First Normal University. That status course is called extreme consumption. Therefore, not only the middle class, but many working classes also place their hopes on their children's education, which eventually leads to debates. As an international high school student, I have also seen many students who are burdened by the COVID-19. Some people just choose to borrow money from their relatives to continue study abroad, and some of them just can't study in the vocational school in China. This is a common problem. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Will. I think you give a great big deal of great ideas. But I also agree with your idea that parents should take responsible of their children. So it includes about their tuition fee, right? So parents should take responsible of every members in their family. But I also have idea that the encouragement, imbalancement education in China also can reflect in the difference between the East and also West. For example, my hometown is in Jiangsu province. It's in the East, and some surveys has shown that the literacy rate in most of the eastern part of China is just about 4%, but in some western part of China, such as Xizang, is more than about 10%. So you can see the huge gap between the East and the West. But however, I was touched by a woman called Zhang Guimei. So this is because with her action, she is trying to help girls in poor areas to get higher education. So she established the first free girls' high school in China in 2008. So what I'm talking about just now is that Chinese educational imbalance is reflected in the difference between the rural and the urban areas, and also can reflect in the western and also the eastern areas. But there are still many great people like the substitute teacher and the Zhang Guimei that they always fighting for the issues. So to conclusion, all the idea of you guys that the problem of the educational imbalance in China still exists, which is for 5 main reasons. This includes Chinese unbalanced regional economic development, and also Chinese unbalanced political development, and also Chinese family, school, and also society reasons. So thank you, every members. And so we have finished the first section for the reason for the education imbalance in China. And next we will move to the second section about the solution about this issue. So Tian Yixuan, may I know, do you have any idea about the solution?
I think the government need to develop the economy and improve their device so that can help children in rural area have a better learning equipment and have a good environment to study.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Tian Yixuan. I think it's a great point. And what about XINTONG? Do you have any idea?
Yes, my approach is to optimize the structure of education and promote vocational education. The article highlights the disconnect between school knowledge and the practical skills needed for employment, resulting in difficulties in finding jobs after graduation despite the high investment. As China's rapidly developing social and economic landscape diversifies the demand for talent, it's important to restructure education to ensure balance ratio of research, development, and application-oriented talent, developing vocational and technical schools, supporting private universities, and expanding opportunities for independent university admissions are effective ways to optimize the educational structure. This will reduce planned investment in education and provide great job security for individuals, thus avoiding the trap of education out of poverty.
Okay, thank you, XINTONG. And what about Ren Haochen? Do you have any idea?
Oh, yes. I think it still needs to be solved at the government level. To solve the problem of imbalance in the regional economic development, it is necessary to adhere to the combination of market leadership and government guidance. Effectively promote the construction of unfilled and open market system with orderly competition across the country. Improve the regional state-gate coordination mechanism. Improve the basic public service equalization mechanism, and effectively enhance the balance and coordination of regional economic development. The core of narrowing the development gap between regions and creating equitable development opportunities is to gradually solve the problems of east-west imbalance and north-south gap. To achieve east-west coordination and narrow the gap between north and south is the dual meaning of China's high-quality economic development. To solve the coordinated development of the east, central, and the west, and the north and south, it is more necessary to strive to practice the new development concept and consistently adhere to innovative development, coordinated development, green development, and open development, also shared development. Accelerate the transformation of old and new kinetic energy, vigorously optimize the industrial structure, build a modern economic system, promote the opening up of the central and western regions and the northern region at a higher level, and give play to the new role of the underdevelopment regions in building a new development pattern. That's all.
Okay, Will, do you have any idea to add for the Ren Haochen?
I think families decide whether to support their children to study abroad and pay related expenses. They should act according to their own income or disposable income. Every family financial situation is very different, so be realistic about your financial situation when making a decision. Families could carefully consider when they have enough financial strength to support their children to study abroad, rather than blindly follow other people's consumption partners. It is important to assess families' financial situation wisely and making realistic decisions. Families should not be trapped in debate by pursuing so-called social status or their eyes on others beyond their financial means. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Will. I agree with you because I think find job is very important for our students, because if our knowledge from school is different from the knowledge that we can put it in the society, so we won't get a great job in the society. So I think find job is also most and more important in our lives. So thank you, everyone. And next, let me to do some conclusion for today. Well, even Chinese encouragement and education has some imbalance, but they also have many ways to solve the problem. And just like the Wu You mentioned that we can call on the government, and also Tian Yixuan mentioned that we can call on the government economy and also the political things to develop the education in China and also the remote area. But at the same time, we also as the media communication students and also as the citizen in China, we can try different opportunities in the university and also try to improve ourselves to reduce the imbalance of the original situation. So that's all for today, and thank you, everyone.